What's up, everybody? This is your brother Woody Rock, and you know I got soul.
But Woody, I always like to start off with this question with everyone we interview. What's a song in your catalog, in Dru Hill's catalog, that when you look back at, and it doesn't have to be about chart success or anything, but just a song you look back and you're just like, I killed that. Like whether it's the writing, the vocals, just a song that you're really proud of.
And probably Angel
Mm,
from the Dru World Order. No, it wasn't Dru, the second album.
yeah.
End of the Dru. Yeah.
Why
Yep.
that? Why that song?
Man, because I was so hands-on with it.
Hmm.
Like the first time around, I didn't really know what I was doing. But with that song, like I basically wrote it and then I went in. And when I got to work with Warren Campbell, who is in my opinion, one of the greatest producers out there,
Yep.
just the fact that just being able to work with him, and I don't play the keyboard fluently,
Hmm.
but I play enough that I could just go in and with like one finger show him the bass line and sing it. And then to watch him take that little bit of what I did and build onto it and put real chords on it and really play it. And then he sings too, if anybody doesn't know.
Hmm.
He sings too, and his voice really sounds like Stevie Wonder to me. So it's just like almost like I close my eyes and picture Stevie Wonder singing a song that I wrote, to
Wow.
listen to him sing it. And then to actually be able to put it down on a record. And the first album, it was kind of a struggle with us getting, because like we as a group, we got more songs that we wrote on our first project than a lot of other artists.
Yeah.
So like it was a struggle after a while. Like, all right, we letting y'all get this one on. We letting y'all get this one on. So we had to wait until the day of the mastering for me to find out if April Showers was actually going to make the album.
Wow.
So with this one, when I played it for Mr. Hiram Hicks, who was the president of Island Black Music, when I brought him into the room, I was like, "Can you check this one out and see if it's good enough?" He's like, "Man, at this point, whatever you give me is going on." So it's like to have him have that confidence in me, and then to be able to put it on there. And then later on, speaking to Scola, who wasn't in the group at the time, and he was like, "Man, I bought y'all album because I heard Angel." He's like,
Mm.
"I like the stuff that was on the radio, but it sounded like drill." He's like, "When I heard Angel, he's like, that don't sound like nothing that I ever heard before." And he's like, that same day when he heard it, he went straight to the record store and picked it up. And
Wow.
Skola's not like a softy type of a guy, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for it to appeal to somebody with his mentality and his ear and stuff like that, it made me feel like I did something special, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's an amazing song. Super emotional song. And what I love about that song is, at first it starts out mellow, and then once you get to that bridge, that climax part, the rest of the group comes in and you guys just take it home. That was an amazing song.
And that was actually me and Note.
Yeah.
That was just us two
Oh, really?
on the backgrounds, and Warren Campbell, yeah, because that's something that people probably don't know about our group. It's very few songs that you could point to where everybody was actually in the studio singing on the actual track record that you hear.
Wow.
Live in concert, we would all go back and listen to whatever we recorded and learn our parts, and so we could sing it live for everybody. But like in the studio, it was usually teams. It was a lot of times it was me and Note, and it would be Cisco and Jazz, and then we'd go
Mm,
in and do whole songs with just the two of us. And some songs, there's only one person singing
wow.
the leads in the backgrounds and stuff like that. But we made it sound like a group because of the way that we stacked the vocals. It sounded like more people was actually singing than what actually was.
Wow. Amazing
Mm-hmm.
song and amazing work on that one. But Woody, I want to take it all the way back to the beginning, before the record deal, before the hits. This was Woody, as a young singer. I know you started singing in school, like a lot of people in
Church.
that era,
Oh yeah.
church, school.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of talk about what kind of songs you guys were singing in school at the time. I know Boys to Men was big at that time.
Oh, you mean at the time that we first put the group together?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Man, it was a lot of Boys and Men, a whole lot of Jodeci, because Jodeci was always my favorite. And it's
Yeah.
like when we first, and High Five, like when I first got online and got acquainted with some of the members of High Five,
Yeah.
to be able to tell. Sorry, I left this refrigerator. One second, one second.
Yeah. No worries.
Yep. Basically, like whatever was popular in 1990, 1991. A
Mm,
lot of High Five, some I Can't Wait Another Minute was like one that we practiced a whole lot.
Right.
Boys the Men's first album, Cooley High Harmony, like just all the songs on there. And all the songs on Jodeci's Forever My Lady. Basically, that was our repertoire. And like anybody who came in between that had something hot, Knocking the Boots, H-Town, Silk came out during that time with Freak. I Want to Get Freaky with You.
Yeah.
We did some stuff with that one, but the main focus was Boys and Men and Jodeci as
Yeah.
a group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at that same time, you're listening to a lot of gospel as well. I know you're heavy into church at
All
that
day.
time. Yeah.
All day. I grew up in church. Like, funny thing, a lot of people don't know. I was actually the first person out of the ones that you see on the CD cover and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was the first one in the group. It was
Mm.
it was me and three other guys or four other guys, however many showed up that day. And what actually happened from there, we used to practice that. It was a thing called singing telegrams that
Yeah.
used to happen at my school. And the choir director, Miss Hall, people would pay, I think, $1, or I don't even know the dollar amount, but I think it was like $1.25 or something like that.
Yeah.
And on Valentine's Day, you would come and sing for whoever paid for a singing telegram. So you'd be in class, and we had permission as the choir members to walk around to the different classrooms and call out this person and call them out in the hallway and sing to them. Or if they wanted a telegram in front of the class, then it would be right there in front of everybody. We just had to sing. So
Yeah.
from that, um, I just started singing with some other choir members. And one day, no, before that even, I'm sorry, take it back a little teeny bit.
Yeah.
Before that, I was singing outside the school one day, and it was Ralph Tresvant's Sensitivity.
Mm.
And I just had at that time, I wanted to be a comedian. So I
Mm.
was like, man, that guy could sing so good, but he just sounds so happy. It sounds like he's smiling at the same time that he's singing. And I was like, he sound like this. And I did an impression of his voice. And I thought people was going like laugh at the joke that I had in my head, but instead girls was like, oh my goodness, boy, do that again. And like a bunch of pretty girls just like circled around me, but I was so shy at the time, like, and I'm still introverted as I post all the time.
Yeah.
I was so shy that I didn't want anybody looking at me. I wanted them to listen to me sing. I didn't really want the attention of everybody running up and looking at me dead in my face and stuff like that. So I put in my mind right then, I want to be in a group. So it was a guy named Chris Thomas who was with the group for a long time.
Right.
So ask any of the members, they'll tell you about him. And it was a guy named Damien who was on a show called Shakedown here in Baltimore, which was like a local version of Soul Train, like a smaller scaled down Soul Train.
Right.
He could dance real good. And then it was a guy by the name of Michael Foreman. And it was us was the original. And then it was a guy named Kevin Evans who used to sing. I think he's a minister now.
Yeah.
So from there, how I got to everybody else getting in the group. When we did the choir thing, people was like, oh, he can sing, he can sing. So he took me down to the choir room. And when we did the singing telegrams the first year, it was just me and a bunch of seniors and upper class. Second year, by that time, I knew Cisco from middle school.
Mm-hmm.
We both went to a school called Northeast Middle School. And at that school, he was known for dancing. Nobody knew the other one's son. He was known for dancing. Like at the senior farewell, I remember him and one of his buddies named Milo. They put the principal in a sandwich and was like freak dancing with our principal, may she rest in peace. So he was very popular through the school as a dancer. He and I had one class together because our classes were on the opposite ends of the school. So to bring the students together, they had something called touchstones, where they brought students that would never automatically cross paths so we could meet each other.
Right.
So when we met, I had a folder that I used to write raps, and he had a folder where as though he used to do like a bunch of artistic stuff.
Right.
So we used to, instead of doing the work we were supposed to do, we would spend a whole hour or whatever, like I'm looking through his drawings and he read my raps. So one day, the school he went to, which was called Mervo or Mergenthaler, but it's Mervo for short, did a shop class, and the class actually took place in my school. So I was singing with the other guys, with the three guys I told you about, and he came through, and he heard us singing, and he looking like, hold up, that's you? I'm looking like, yeah, that's you. He's like, oh, for real, you sing? I'm like, you sing? And he said, can I put a note to the harmony of what we were doing? Because we were singing Boys and Men. It was like one of those 1, 2, 3, 4 harmonies that you could just, if you sung in church, sung in choir, you could jump in on the harmony. He said, "Can I put a note in the harmony?" And the note, I said, "Go ahead, go shoot it, go for it." He put a note in, and the note that he put in was like nothing that we had ever heard. Like it made the
Mm,
change the whole dynamic of the song. So that's when he started coming to the school every day. Plus, girls liked him always.
yeah,
So he came up every day, and like girls would be like, "Your boy coming? Your boy coming?" At the school, and then he would come, and we would sing to the point where the driver's ed class teacher would get mad
yeah.
because all the people would come from driver's ed to run downstairs to hear us sing. And Nokio ended up coming in because he knew a guy we both knew a guy by the name of Bravette was in one of my classes, and Bravette was in the group for a long time also.
Yeah.
And Bravette brought Nokio through to one of the practices one day. And after that, he was there every day too. And then
Mm,
when it was a thing where at first that people thought that when he got sick. Look, I think he got strep throat or something. He didn't come to school for like a month or maybe longer. When he finally came back, Bravette was like, "Oh man, them two gonna fight when they meet each other. They not gonna like each other. This, that, and the third." And I mean, I didn't pay no mind. I just wanted to sing. I didn't care about none of that.
right.
But they finally met, and everything was cool. But then my mom took me out of the group because she
Mm,
found out that it was a group. I wasn't supposed to be singing at the school. I was supposed to be in coach class or in the choir or
oh,
something.
right, right.
And my mom hated the fact that we weren't singing gospel music. So the fact that I wasn't doing so great in some of my school classes, even because once I found out, like elementary school, I got tested and they said that I was genius IQ. My
Right.
IQ was like 148 plus, and I was in like the second or third grade. I was reading on a high level. So I always got good grades. Like I skipped a grade, but I wasn't socially ready because I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
I couldn't tie my shoes. Like I'm very awkward as far as like regular stuff that everybody else does easily is hard for
Sure.
me. And stuff that's very hard for everybody else is easy for me. So
Right.
the schoolwork was easy, but I couldn't tie my shoes. So like
Mm.
my teachers would just look at me and be disgusted, like, "Ew, why is he here? Like he's not ready."
Yeah.
So I got put back in my right grade, but I always made the honor roll.
Mhm.
Once I found out that I felt like I wanted to sing for a living,
Yeah.
I let my grades go. So that was my mom's thing always. Like, if you can't pass these classes, you can't sing with them boys.
Yeah.
So she came up one day and physically removed me out of the school. Like we was singing Earth Angel by New Edition at the top of the steps. I said, "Earth Angel, would you be mine?" And the girl said, "Oh yeah, I'll be yours." As soon as she said it, I just felt my body yank
Wow.
just like that. And I went outside. So once she found out about it, I was only able to sing with the group at engagements at the school because she wasn't gonna
Mm.
come up there every day and police me. But they started doing talent shows and all that type of stuff. So after a while, I was just like, it makes sense for me to just part ways and just let y'all go, and do what y'all gonna do. I don't want to hold y'all back because we get better and better.
Yeah.
We get offers and stuff like that. So they started doing talent shows and everything like that, and I just stayed behind and sung with the remainder of the people because by that time it was like 7 or 8 people that we sing together at the school every day,
Right.
not just the four that actually made it on the record. And Jazz actually never went to our school. Nokio and Jazz met up when Nokio transferred schools
Mhm.
and went to another school that was a music school. So that's when they met up. But the rest of us, we used to go every day to a teacher named Miss Cross's class, and she was kind enough to let us hold her school audio visual equipment and use her tape recorder to record ourselves and see what
Wow.
we sounded like full until we got confident enough to sing for everybody in front of the girls and stuff.
Wow, that's an amazing story. And hypothetically, because obviously we know yourself, we know Woody, Jazz, Cisco, and Nokio.
Right.
Hypothetically, can you imagine some of those other members? Like, would it have panned out the same way if it were some of those other members? Because like the four that we see today that actually came out, like it just made so much sense. Like you guys are all talented, all gifted, and it just made so much sense from a sonic standpoint. Like, can you imagine a world where it was four other members?
Man, I mean, some different combinations. I was hoping that some of them would get together and form other groups and get out there too. But it's like just like you said, I think that a lot of other people. Well, I can't say a lot of other people, but I remember one time we had an audition with Heavy D came to our school,
Right.
and no finesse some type of way that he could talk to Heavy D's management or whatever. And they sent down some people from I think it was MCA Records, and they came and listened to us. And at that time, like 6 of us came and auditioned for them. And out of the 6 that came, they picked No, Cisco, and myself.
Mm.
And Jazz wasn't with us yet, so he
Right.
wasn't there to be picked. But it's like we were the ones who got picked by the label people before, so
Right.
it makes sense.
Yeah. So once you guys all form, all four of you guys, and you guys start really grinding, what was your goal at that time? Like, what did you kind of envision, with the group? Like, what was the plan? Like, what was a record deal what you were looking for, and who were you kind of modeling your career after at that point? Because you're young at the time, but you have plans.
Man, I met Devontae from Jodeci for the
Mm,
first time, or the only time, in 2000, I think 15, when their last album came out.
yeah.
And I told him I started the group because I wanted a Jodeci tribute group. I just wanted to
Mm.
get with some guys and sing Jodeci songs all day long. I didn't care about getting a record deal. I didn't care about coming out with records or anything like that, like any of the business side of the stuff. I just wanted to sing for fun, and it just so happened that we had other, like no is I give him credit for that. He was more like a business minded person, and he saw it as something that
Yeah.
we could do and make money. You see what I'm saying? But like for
Mhm.
me personally, I was content with singing in the hallways of school, or maybe a talent show here, a talent show there, just so some honeys could hear me singing and I could get some phone numbers. And yeah, that was my goal. But
Wow.
it's like outside of that, and be able to come home every week, because that was the most important thing to me. Like we can go travel the world, we can go to Europe today, as long as by Friday I'm back home and I'm in my place.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
And then, of course, you guys get your deal, and like a lot of groups, especially at that time, the contracts are kind of funny,
Yeah.
and I think what people need to understand is, especially at that time, like today, you might have a lot more information available about what a good contract is
That
versus what a bad contract is.
that
So when
part.
you get that contract presented to you, and this is like early 90s, mid 90s, like, are you guys thinking that's a good contract? Are you guys even thinking about whether it's a good contract or not at that time?
Let me tell you something. At that time, all I cared about, once again, was just the fact that we about to be on TV.
Mhm.
So not only are females in Baltimore going to see us and know that we can sing real good, but it's going to be females in every city across the United States, and probably some in other countries that we never even been to, that know we can sing real good. So that was my personal own focus, is just being the fact that we going to get this exposure and people are going to see us, and we going to be like ABC, which is another one of my favorite groups. You remember
Right.
them with Michael Bivins
Yep.
and PBD, and all our favorites. We just going to be on TV. We going to be famous. It wasn't until after we signed deals and we went to the Impact Music Festival, Impact Music, whatever it was, seminar, whatever that was,
Sure.
where we made our first performance. And we met. Cisco and I used to be the two that used to sneak out other rooms whenever we supposed to be somewhere. We'd hurry up and do our parts in the studio and then go to the mall in Philly,
Right.
go to this place in Brooklyn, catch the subway and stuff. We had no business. So
Mhm.
like he and I snuck out of the rooms and went downstairs at the Impact thing, and we ran into Nathan and Sean from Boys and Men.
Right.
And when we met them, like the first question out of our mouths, because we didn't want to just seem like fans, the first question that came up for us to ask them, is there any advice that you can give us about this business?
Mhm.
And the first sentence, the first conversation that we had with these guys, everything that they told us don't sign and don't do, we just looked at each other like, damn it, we just did all that
Oh,
stuff
man.
like 2 weeks ago. you know, it was like only one person in the group who knew the business side of things. It was like three of us who were basically musically inclined guys. Like Jazz and I grew up in musical families. Like I was singing, I sang my first solo when I was 3 years old.
Yep.
And all my family members, all my uncles are ministers of music. I got cousins who sing and went to college and actually got free tuition and stuff because they sung so well, and got paid to come back to go to college to travel with the choir to make their choir sound good. So all I grew up around was music. I
Mm.
could sing, I could walk and write a song walking down the street right now, and it'll sound like something that's on the radio. Like that part was easy. But like I said, certain stuff is easy, certain stuff is hard.
Mhm.
And like Chance the same way, he grew up in a musical family. Like Cisco is a musical, can take nothing away from his musical talent.
Yep.
But none of the three of us knew anything about the business side of things.
Right.
And so it's like we had Nokia who told me, if y'all worry about the music and make sure we good on the singing side,
Yep.
I'm gonna make sure we good on the business tip.
Mm.
And what ended up happening, he ended up good on the business tip.
Oh man.
I can't speak for nobody else, but I can tell you I didn't end up good on the business tip.
Right.
And I'm not blaming him because at the same time, looking back in hindsight, the same hours of the day that he put into reading those books that I used to see in his room when we used to go over and practice and rehearse at his house,
No.
I could have picked up those same books. It was nothing stopping me from picking up those same books and learning those same things. But
Right.
that's what you learn in hindsight is 2020. And
Right.
when you little and you like in your teens, you just somebody tell you something, okay.
Yep.
And that's what I did. I was just young and dumb. So looking back, I wish I would have learned more about the business side of things, the way those things work, because the music side just comes like, that just came like whatever.
hmm
Like you put any of us in a room with a track in about 10 minutes, it's gonna sound like something. And if it don't, then whoever else is there is gonna pick up the slack and make it sound like whatever is missing is gonna fill it in, you know.
Right. Yeah.
That part was easy. So
Yeah.
I should have been more focused on the hard part, making sure
Right.
that side was straight.
Hey, well, the music sounded good, so at least you had that going
This
for
year.
you.
Oh yeah, we did that. We
Yep.
did that.
Yep.
All praise to the Most High. Yeah.
Absolutely. So Woody, at that time, you guys are getting a deal. You guys are doing your thing, and I know early on your mom wasn't a big fan of you pursuing music as a career. So what happens at that point? You sign your contract. You're ready to go, and I know your mom not a big fan of you doing secular music and all of that. Like, what's going on there? Like, is your mom finally saying, "Okay, you can go ahead and do this," or is she still not sure about it?
No, what happened was we had a conversation with my pastor at the time.
Mm-hmm.
he I asked her, I said, Mom, this we keep going back and forth, back and forth. So in order to not so we could be on good terms, because we always have been growing up. I grew up in a house like Leave It to Beaver. Everybody getting along. My dad was present, like a whole full family, like
Right.
Beaver Cleaver and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So for anybody in the house to not be on speaking terms or to be arguing or upset with each other was very unheard of. So I just wanted to put a stop to that. So I said, if we ask my pastor
Mm-hmm.
if it's okay for me to make this music, and he says it's okay,
Yeah.
would you let me go? And it just so happened that my pastor's son was over in Germany playing piano, playing jazz music, making a
Mm.
living. So
Yeah.
he said, as long as you keep your same morals and values and remember everything that your parents taught you and everything, you can go. And to make it even sweeter, the group, right before we got signed, became a gospel group
Mm.
before they asked me to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's gonna call me and say, "Yo, if we sing gospel, you think your mother let you sing with us?"
Yep.
And I was like, I asked her, and she said, "Yeah," and it was cool, but at the same time, she didn't want me to leave my church. So if the
Right.
group had an engagement on the same day that my church had an engagement, I had to go to my church. But if we picked a Sunday where it wasn't my turn, my choir's turn to sing at the church, she let me go.
Mm.
So I was by the time we got signed, I was already good because I had already got the blessing from my pastor. And
Right.
we started off gospel. And then the guy who had done, because they actually got a deal before me. They got a deal before I got back in the group.
Mm.
But the deal was like a developmental deal. So they
Right.
never really put any music out. They would just sign. And he used to come up my school. And I don't know if it was to taunt me or tease me or if it was to really just like show me what was going on. And they used to play me songs that they did with as though they went in a real actual studio and
Wow.
recorded them and stuff like that. And they would come up to school and it'd be a big deal. They all be dressed up in their outfits and stuff that the record label bought them and stuff like that, like looking like money. And
Mhm.
I was still just a regular school, and I would go back and see, Mom, they gonna make it, and they gonna be on TV, and you ain't let me go. But by the time I graduated school, talked to the pastor and everything, then got back in the group. We did like a year of the gospel stuff, and then we got a call from the guy who got them the deal at first, and he asked, "Would we try R&B one more time?"
Mhm.
And that's when we went up and we went to Interscope first. They liked us, but they didn't move fast enough. So then we went to Island Black Music
Right.
and got signed that same, you know that story. We got signed the same day and recorded Tell Me.
Yeah.
Well, we recorded Tell Me the same day and then the contracts came like about a week later. So
Amazing. So, Woody, at that time, before you even got back in the group, Nokia, Jazz, and Cisco, they were already doing their thing. So I'm assuming that they kind of already established, their roles within the group, and then you come in. Like, how did you kind of fit yourself into that? Because like Jazz, I think is like one of the best singers. Period.
heck yeah,
Cisco
heck
is
yeah.
Cisco is great too, and Nokia, I know he's
Mhm.
behind the scenes. He's a genius from that aspect. So you're coming in, and I know what you can do. You're an amazing songwriter. Your
Thanks.
singing is good too. But like,
Thanks.
how did you kind of figure out what your role was going to be in that group?
That was, to be honest, it was the beginning and it was the beginning of the end for me because
Mm,
imagine you start a corporation
yeah,
and for whatever reason you have to go away from that corporation for an amount of years or whatever.
yeah,
And then you come back and the only position they ask you back, they invite you back to the corporation, like we want you to come back. But none of the positions that you used to fill are open.
right.
The only position that we have, like, mind you, it's the company that you started. But to be fair to everybody else, when you were gone, we kept it going and we pushed it forward and we made it into something other than what it was when you were there.
Yep.
So, to be fair on that aspect, but now we want you to come back. But the only thing that we have for you to do is be a janitor.
Mm,
You're not going to be in the corporate office. You're not going to be doing this, which I used to write a lot of the stuff that we did initially. You're
mm-hmm,
not going to be singing leads on any of the songs. If it is, it's going to be a little 2 second bridge or a little spot here or there or a song that's just a hidden cut on the album or something like that. You're not one of the principal singers anymore.
right.
You're just here for the ride. And it's like that was never explained to me, but it was like every time I would try to do something else, which was things that I used to do, they'd be like, oh no, this person does this now. Oh
Mm-hmm,
no, this one does that now. Even the like talking on the song, wrote a song and I was going to do a talk about. Oh no, such and such do all the talking now. So it's like just to be there and then to be fair, some people would love that position, but I've
yeah,
always been the type of person that like think about an NBA team
yeah,
and then you win championships every year, but you never even get your jersey dirty. Like you
mm-hmm,
just sitting riding the bench the whole time. Some
yeah,
people like, shoot, let me ride that bench. I still get a ring at the end of the year.
yeah,
I'm a type of person that like to earn whatever it is that I get,
yeah,
and then I had people who do know me. People who didn't know me didn't know. Like I would go to the studio when I started not get my gospel project, just to not to skip ahead, we're gonna go right back. But just
yeah,
like when I started my gospel project, I would go to the studio and then I would run into other artists and I'd be like, hey, you want to hear this song I just did? And they was like, who's that singing? He's like, it's not hard, but who's that singing? I'm like, that's me. He's
mm.
like, that's you? You sing like that? Like, why you ain't never sing like that on none of the drill records? I was like, because it's this person taught to take it to church. If
Right.
anything, I just get to sing the 2, 3 lines in the beginning of it or whatever, and then leave it for somebody else to do all the real vocal acrobatics and stuff. Not to do it, it don't mean that I couldn't do it, but it's like they already had, like you said, a format. By the time
Mhm.
I came back, this person was known to do this. This person was known for doing that. So it's like when you come back in, nah, you can't, you won't be doing that. You won't be doing any of that today either. You're just
Right.
gonna sit there and be, that's it. And that's what I couldn't, somebody else would have loved that part.
Yeah.
It would have rolled it to the wheels fall off. It still would have been there. But me being the type of person that I am, like if I feel like I'm not adding anything to where I am by me being there, I feel like I'm gonna go somewhere else. Like I would say, like I always said, that I wish that singing groups could trade like how NBA teams and NFL
Mm.
teams, because
Yeah.
like you might have a player on one team, he don't do nothing. But then
Yep.
we go to another team, he's like their star player. He helped them to get to the Super Bowl. So I was like, I would rather go to a group like with keeping it with basketball. Like I'd rather go to a team that's never been to the playoffs and me being there be the difference to help them get to the playoffs than be on a team that go to the playoffs every year, but I'm not really contributing. You see what
Right.
I'm saying? Because I get bored. Like people get certain jobs. Like I'm an introvert, so my buddy works and he sits in the booth all day. Nobody sees him. All he does is come out if it's technical problems with the equipment or whatever. He comes out. He complained about it. I'm like, man, shit, let me sit in the booth all day and nobody see me and I'm just chilling. I'll be in heaven. But different things with different people. It's like me, I feel like if I'm gonna be in something, my presence has to make a difference. And
Yeah.
it's like we would go and we would meet people and meet fans and stuff like that and they wouldn't even know who I was. They would just walk right past me to get to all the other guys and stuff like that. I'm like, man, I don't feel like my presence is really making such a big impact here. So it's like if they the ones that their presence is making the big impact, why
Mhm.
not let them keep on living that? This is their dream. They living their dream. This is not a dream for me at this point. It's more nightmarish. So I said,
Mm.
let me go ahead and let them go ahead and keep doing it, and me go this way. But I wanted it. I wanted it to be amicable.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So I never, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's such an interesting point you make of and it reminds me of, like, my work, because I manage a team as well, and one of the lessons I learned is it's not about making it easy for everyone. It also has to also be about, empowering your team, making sure
Mm-hmm.
that their voice matters, making sure that they feel like they're
Mm-hmm.
a part of the team, so that makes
Right.
perfect sense on your point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. And it's like you do certain things, like a pastor said one time, when you have a janitor, nobody, as long as the building stays nice,
mhm,
nobody cares about who the janitor is.
right.
But then the minute that something is messed up in the building,
Yep.
then that's when everybody like, where the hell's the janitor? This place is a mess. But as long as it's nice, nobody praises the janitor. So it wasn't until I left that people started saying that, okay, something that he's doing behind the scenes
Yep.
is having some type of impact. Like he's not just there like we thought he was. He's not
Mhm.
just sitting there taking up space. Because the things I would contribute, but it wouldn't be a contribution that everybody could see or hear. I mean, they hear it and they
Yep.
feel it, but they didn't necessarily see it. They didn't see me on the microphone or hear me on the songs that were singles. Of course, if they bought the whole album, then they would hear me all up and through the whole albums and stuff
Yep.
like that. But on the singles, they might not hear me as much or see me as much. So they assumed that I wasn't doing anything of importance. But when I left, like even people who work with the organization, it's like the atmosphere just feel different when you're
Mm.
not, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I felt your contributions, especially on that first album. Like I told Nokio this as well when I talked to him. All
Mm-hmm.
Alone and April Showers, like that's the best 1-2 punch I've ever heard on an album.
And both of them is my babies.
Yep.
Like All Alone was written. My verse on All Alone was written to be an interlude
Mm.
because I didn't know what an introvert was back then, but that's just how I felt, and I said that's basically an introvert's anthem. All Alone. So like once I sung it for a note, because what used to happen, Cisco and Jazz used to be together all the time because they worked together.
Yep.
Nokia and I used to both work at that same job, but we got fired because the same day, and not because of anything that we did wrong. We got fired because anybody who had a second job, whereas though they felt like they couldn't just call us at any time and we'd come in,
Mm.
they let us go. So I was actually in college and Noak was working at a shoe store called the Downtown Locker Room. So the fact that we had second jobs
Yep.
is why they let both of us go. So I went to college right down the street from his house. So every day after school, I would just come to his house and I would open up my songbook and he would go to the keyboard and plays and we would just try to put together songs. But All Alone I did at this college that I went to, Coppin State. And I sat there with the piano with my one finger and wrote down all the notes and stuff to it and everything. And then I sung it for him and his cousin, whose name is Greg, who was the original one with the blonde hair. They'll tell you that story.
Right.
But I sung it for both of them. And they was like, yo, this need to be on our stuff or whatever. Because honestly, I never intended to write for us.
Mm.
I wrote my stuff for I don't know what I was writing for. I just wrote it to be right. It's
Right.
my thoughts or whatever. And like when we met the record label, when they introduced me to the lady who was with the record label that they were signed to University, that was the sub label to Island Black Music.
Yep.
And played of the stuff that Nook and I would come up with because like a lot of stuff that Jazz and Cisco would come up with because they spoke sing so soulfully
Yep.
and churchy, they would say, "Oh boy, there y'all go try to sound like Jodeci again. Oh boy, there y'all go doing Jodeci again." But the
Mm.
stuff that me and Nope would come up with, because Nope really I adapted the way that I was writing at the time to fit his style because I'm straight from church too.
Yep.
But the way that he played was not in a church way. So me sitting there coming up with churchy songs and him playing the way how he played, we wouldn't have got anything done. So I adapted the way that I wrote to fit his tracks and the stuff that we came up with. The lady was like, "Oh, see, now that's what y'all need to be doing because that stuff
Mm.
don't sound like nobody." So once she gave me her blessing or whatever, her name was Miss Kim Jordan
Yep.
actually, and she once she gave me her blessing and said that the stuff that we was coming up with was what was up, then what ended up happening was like me and him would get together every day after I got out of college and he got off work. I'll meet him at his house. We'd write, and then Cisco and Jazz would come, and instead of them writing, they would write here and there for we were missing some words or whatever, but for the most part, they would arrange the harmonies and do the vocal arrangements around the stuff that we came up with. Like, no, we'd do a beat, I come up with a melody, and then he and I together put together the words, or whoever got the words first or whatever. It did. It was like a factory the way that we used to work for that
Mm.
first album.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's funny, Nokia also mentioned on that first album, you guys have a couple of songs that Keith Sweat produced on there, and
Yeah,
Nokia was like he didn't want to record those songs, and the label kind of forced you guys to do it, but eventually you guys were convinced to do it, and he loves those songs now. I'm curious if that's the same, insight that you have.
man, I was basically like I was happy to be there,
Right.
and if anything, I was hoping that somebody would hear me humming in the corner and be like, "Yeah, we need you on this part." So that
Right.
was mostly my thing, trying to figure out where I could finesse myself a part here or there. If it was like an open section,
Mm,
I'd go ahead and write something to it and then pull them in a huddle and sing it. So hoping they'd be like, "Yeah, you'll go in there and do that." That was
right.
more on a mission. Like I didn't
Yep.
really care who brought the songs to the table. I was excited to meet Keith Sweat because he was somebody that I had only seen on television.
Right.
So that for him to be in the same room, like with us and talking to us and giving us behind the scenes tips and stuff. Like I remember him telling Cisco, like, man, that sounds good what you doing, but make sure whatever you doing, you could duplicate it in the car. He said basically he said sing it simple on the record
Hmm.
because the key to my success is that people feel like they can sing my songs and sound just like me. So
Yep.
he was like, if you sing it simple on the record, and then when you get to the live show, that's when you can show your ass. And you
Yep.
do everything you know how to do. So I remember him giving that advice in the studio and just being around a star, like a certified star that I could call home and
Yep.
tell from my mother to my girl or anybody I met Keith Sweat that they would know who I was talking about. Like it wouldn't be like, who? Oh no, I guess I know who that is. He's like one of the first stars that we actually worked with. So that was the most exciting part about him to me. Like that was all the songs that we bought, I liked. I
Yeah.
just was my whole thing was figuring out, dang, when can I get a little piece? Where
Mm.
can I get on?
Awesome.
Yeah.
So after the success of that first album, like how are you feeling aside from, wanting to have a bigger part in the group, but how are you
Mm.
taking all the success at that time? Because you guys are selling a lot of records, your songs are on the radio. Like that must feel really good at that time.
That was fun,
Yeah.
but I'm a homebody, and at the time, my mom and dad are both passed on now.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, they were both alive. And I used to always just want to go home. Like every time, if
Mm,
we did 4 days on the road and we had one day off to rest somewhere, and the next day we go out, I would always, out of my personal account, just go home and then just meet them in the next city. That was my biggest thing, just wanting to feel the love from our hometown. Because it felt good from everybody else and to meet new people you never met. But as much as before, I used to always tease my mom, like, man, mom, I'm gonna make it and I'm gonna be gone and you never gonna see me. The minute we actually got to that point, I turned into the biggest homebody and the biggest crybaby. All I wanted to do, no matter how much success we had, is
right.
just get home and be up under my mom and my dad and be around my little sisters and brothers and see how they felt about things and
Right.
get their energy, you know?
Yeah. So we get to the second album, and I love this album for the fact that, it brought you guys to new heights, and you guys got to hang out with Jackie Chan, right? On the
Yep,
How Deep Is Your Love music
yep,
video. That must have been
yep.
fun.
Oh, that was dope. Like we
Yeah.
went to his, I don't know if it was his house or his office, wherever it was, like a big room.
Hmm.
And he had us all there and he had his bodyguard took and broke each one of his fingers on his
Mm.
hand and then set them back in place right in front of us.
Wow.
That was amazing to see. Like he just showed us a good time, showed us a lot of hospitality and just another star,
Yeah.
another worldwide star that anywhere you go, you say I met Jackie Chan.
Mm.
Everybody gonna know who you're talking about.
Right.
So that was a big moment for real.
Was Chris Tucker there as well?
No, he wasn't there
Okay.
then, but Chris Tucker was a friend of the group
Okay.
already because during the time when I wasn't with the group when they were actually like pounding the pavements and doing talent shows and stuff like that at different universities, Chris Tucker was up and coming on the comedy scene and
Mm.
he was like
Yeah.
emceeing, hosting a lot of the shows. So like I remember him coming into the dressing room. I think it was the Vibe Live with King Ivory Wayans or one of them school shows that we performed on. And he was on it and he came in our dressing room backstage and asked us to be on the soundtrack, like personally.
Good. That's an
Yeah.
amazing thing. On this second album, I noticed you're not on as much, for the writing as on the first album. And I know you
Mhm.
kind of alluded to that earlier with just the roles and you wishing you had a bigger role. Like when you look back at that album, even if you didn't have a lot of writing on there. Like, how do you look at that album? Because a lot of people always debate which is the better Dru Hill album, the first one or the second one. Like, how do you look at it?
I think that the second one was more commercially accepted, so
Yeah.
I give it what it is. But the first album is my baby because I was involved in that one for the I think 6 songs that we had on there.
Yeah.
I was involved in every one of them 6 songs. I had something. My pen was in there, or I was singing a little bit on each one of them songs. So that was my baby. And the second album, my mentality was like it was more or less. I had stopped trying to get a piece of everything. It was more like, all right, I'm just gonna get it where I fit in, but give me my one song. Just like I
Mm.
had one song by myself on the first album,
Yeah.
give me my one song on this album, man. Once that was solidified that I was gonna get that, I pretty much just basically chilled out and then just came to the studio as needed.
Yeah.
At that time, we was meeting more people. Like I said, Jodeci was always from young, from when Casey and JoJo was Little Cedric and the Haley Singers,
Right.
and they lived in Baltimore too. It's like I've been a fan of those guys, so it's like during that time I actually met Casey and got to hang out with him. Matter of fact, the day that they recorded the Elton John record, the
Mm.
Enchantment Passing Through,
Yeah.
because the thing with me, and I was told by I don't know if you know of this guy, but he's a great organist. He used to play with the Winans. If you're familiar with any gospel music, he played
Okay.
on their Live from Carnegie Hall album.
Yeah.
He's a great organist, and he played on Tell Me. He said you have the vibrato of a Leslie organ.
Mm.
Like my vibrato is very strong. Like you know vibrato, like when it shakes or whatever, when
Yeah.
you hold your note, it
Yeah.
don't hold straight. Like some singers, like Tank did a no vibrato challenge because he said you're only a great singer if you can turn your vibrato off. Well, I guess by those standards, I'm not a great singer because I can't turn mine off.
Right.
But that's also it's good and bad because it's church.
Yeah.
Vibrato works for church all day long, but it doesn't work on necessarily like pop
Sure.
records.
Yeah.
So because of the vibrato, it's like, nah, yo, we not going to have you sing any vocals on that. Not in,
Mm.
like no leads or no backgrounds because we want to sing with no vibrato because this one is more geared towards pop audiences.
Mm. Makes
So once
sense.
I heard that, I said, okay, so I planned the whole day for myself, just chill out.
Mm.
And I'm in the hotel, and who walks in but KC?
Mm.
And who was he sitting with but my next door neighbor from Baltimore, who I found out later is family to him. So
Mm.
they introduced us and we just got to talking. I asked him, could I take a picture? And both our birthdays in September. His is, I believe, the September 3rd,
Yeah.
and mine is September the 10th. So from me showing him a picture, I showed him my photo album. Then I went and got my book of CDs. And we just went up to his room and just played music all day long. I'm playing him all my favorite gospel songs, and he's singing along. We chilling. And at the end of the day, he was like, where the rest of the guys? I like to meet the rest of the guys too. I said, okay. So I took him to the studio where they were recording the Elton John song and brought
Yeah.
him in and surprised all of them with him. But that was my involvement with, like the second album was more or less, I was just getting, if you need me on the song, let me know. If
Right.
not, I'll be at the hotel. And if you're going 2 or 3 songs that you're not going to need me on, I'll be back at home.
Mm.
But I can remember going to Larrabee and recording the Angel, like I told you earlier, with Warren Campbell.
Yeah.
And then we did What Are We Gonna Do? I remember I loved that experience too with Dutch, who did We Be Clubbing. He
Yeah.
did that song, and I love working with. He did the vocal production on it. I don't know who did all the credits and stuff, but
Right.
the vocal production, he was the one in the studio showing us, like monitoring the way we were singing and stuff. And
Right.
I just remember him being like this real cool guy. Like he's big, like he looked like a model or something.
Mm.
Like muscle guy, big muscle bound guy with the curly hair and stuff like that. He just sitting there like real calm, like a player for real.
Right.
And then when I went to say my part, he just said, "Make it special." And then like if you mess up, he said, "No, no, no, that wasn't special. Make it
Mm.
special." And just
Right.
coaching so gently and so cool and smooth. And then the result that came out was one of the few songs that my mom actually liked.
Mm.
Like she liked that song. Like she would play that on her own without me telling her that, whatever. She would play that song. So
Oh,
I was
okay.
proud of that too. Yeah.
That's awesome. So
Yep.
after that, of course, you leave the group and, there's the whole Wild Wild West story, and we can get into that. But I'm just curious, were you aware of how important you were to the dynamic of the group? Because, like, from the outside looking in as fans, like, we knew you guys as four guys, and that's what made up Dru Hill. Like, were you aware that the fans loved you as much as they did until you left?
Nope. That's when I started finding out.
Yeah.
It's like the day that they performed on Conan O'Brien's show.
Mm-hmm.
And Conan O'Brien was always one of my favorites because I like to watch the interlude, the what you call the monologues of
Yeah.
his,
Yep.
and then with him
Yep.
and Andy Richter would get up there and do their stuff. In 2000, in 2000, and all that type of stuff. So when they were actually on the show, I watched that one because other stuff they did I didn't watch, but that I watched and I saw him because everybody thinks I'm tall.
Yep.
I'm not tall. I'm only 5'10".
Mm.
But compared to the rest of the guys in the group, they're like 5'5" and like
Yep.
they're shorter.
Yep.
So compared to them, I look tall. I remember the first time we met Montel Jordan, he's like, I thought you was like my height looking at the video. I'm like, heck no, you 6'8". Heck no,
Yep.
I'm not this size. But I remember Conan doing a motion with his hand, like, where's, like the tall guy with him.
Yep.
So I'm like, he looking for me? He cared
Mm.
that I wasn't there? And then shortly after that, they did a tour with the three of them. They had
Mhm.
like a whole tour with the buses wrapped with their pictures and everything. And I remember they did a show in Washington, D.C. And I was just coming back from out of town working on some gospel stuff. So I
Yeah.
said I wanted to surprise them. So I showed up at the show. And Big Tigger was hosting. He
Mhm.
wanted to bring me on stage as a surprise to the fans, but I remember Kevin, the group's manager, saying no to that. He didn't want me to do that or whatever. So I said,
Sure.
okay, well, I said fair enough. So I just went and got a seat in the audience.
Yeah.
And it got so hectic in the audience that they had to put police officers to the front
Mm.
and back and side to side of me.
Right.
And at that moment, I was like, dang, I didn't realize people cared that much. I
Yep.
didn't think that they cared if I was there or wasn't there. But the love they showed me that night let me know that maybe somebody do care for that, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It's crazy to think about as entertainers, as artists, like you're responsible for like their happiness. You shouldn't be, but they
Mhm.
idolize you guys. So it's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's different. It's
It,
like sometimes you had to step aside
yeah.
and look at things from the outside looking in to understand what's really going on, you know? And if there was social media back in those days, I think I would have felt the love a little more because a lot of times we would do shows or we would be in malls or settings where as though the fans could talk to us. And it would be like a girl right here screaming for Cisco,
Mhm.
a girl right here going crazy over Jazz, and another one in front of us ready to knock down security to get to Nokia or whatever.
Mhm.
And each time they would always say, "Oh my goodness, my cousin love you so much, or my sister love you so much, but she left to go to college the week before we came for this show or whatever. So that's why she not here right now." Once in a while, they hand me the phone and speak to whoever they is talking about. But the fact that happened in like every city, I was like, man, people making these stories up just so I don't feel bad. They telling me about these mystery women that love me so much, and I don't ever meet none of them. But
Right.
now, once social media started happening, people started writing to me and be like, "Oh my goodness, my cousins met y'all, or my sisters met y'all, and I was the one that wasn't there, but I love you." I was like, "Hold up, these is actually real people."
Yep.
So if it would have been social media back then, maybe I would have felt the love a whole lot more. But because it wasn't, all we got was who was there in real time. A
Mhm.
lot of times I would just get like overlooked and just everybody knocking me over, knock me over to get to somebody else. So with that type of environment, I'm just like, I'm in the way.
Mm.
Now you don't got to knock me over to get to such and such. You just go ahead and get to them now because I
Right.
won't be here to be in
Mhm.
your way.
Yeah.
I felt in the way basically for a while.
No, I mean, I can tell you right now, there's people
Mm-hmm.
that still, whenever Dru Hill does a concert, there's still people that ask, "Where's Woody?" And I'm like, "He left years ago," but to them, it's still Woody, Jazz, Nokio, and Cisco, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and it's that's so crazy. In hindsight, I feel the love like 100%. Like I feel the love sometimes to an overwhelming extent
yeah,
because I know I'm an empath also, so I can feel how other people feel,
yeah,
and I know how I would feel if I was bringing my best offering to the table. It's
mhm,
something that I felt really good about, and for one person to say, all right, that's fine, but where this person at?
yeah,
Like, all right, we just gave you this man, this man, this man, and this man, and they all did their thing. Why y'all still asking where that guy? He been gone for this long. You see what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like I can see how I can make somebody else feel. So sometimes when I never for the record, I don't follow any other guys on social media.
right,
I don't just go lurking on their page and see what anybody's saying. But 9 times out of 10, I ask people. I even made a post on Instagram and on Facebook asking people not to send me anything that those guys were doing.
right.
But there's always one hard-headed person that will still send it to me, or one new friend that just became my friend or whatever that always send me stuff.
Of
And me
course.
just being me, being a YouTuber and I love YouTube, but what do you do on YouTube? Read the comments. So
Yeah.
it's like I just can't help it. Once I'm already sent something, I will go in the comments. And every time I see my name, I print. I'm like, oh boy, somebody's not gonna like this, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah,
And then it's just like, please, y'all, just chill out. Just enjoy, what's being brought to the table right now, man.
right.
And reminisce on the good old days. But yeah.
Absolutely. So let's go into your solo album here, Woody. Soul Music. I feel like this album should have got more recognition. Like there's a lot of good songs on here. It's your first effort as a solo artist. Like just take me back
Mhm.
to that era and just what was going on there.
And a lot of experimentation
Mhm.
and a lot of learning on the job.
Yep.
Heavy on the learning on the job. I knew nothing, even to this point. I still hadn't clicked in my head to educate myself about the business side.
Right.
I knew how to go in the studio and make some nice music. I knew how to go in and get. I was blessed to work with all great producers that I was a fan of all their work. I handpicked everything on the album. Like I didn't get A&R credit on the album
Yep.
because I didn't know anything about that either. But
Right.
I pretty much handpicked everything that happened on that album. Handpicked everybody that I worked with, and because I didn't know anything, had a budget that somebody told me I didn't even know to check into that. Somebody told me that I had the biggest one of the biggest budgets for any gospel album up until that point.
Mm,
And because I knew that it was money allotted to do the stuff, I just brought everybody up. I wanted to create a whole experience, like what you hear the
right.
big name artists and big stars doing.
Yep.
I brought everybody up, put everybody in hotels all at the same time. Everybody would come to the studio, whether I was working with them that day or not working with them, and we would just hang out and they would just get around piano. We'd sit there and write songs in the studio on studio time, feeding everybody on studio time. And
Right.
what eventually happened, the budget ran out
Mm.
and they had to reforecast and everybody ended up going home and stuff like that. And it was other songs that didn't even make the album that was still recorded that was still dope.
Yeah.
But it was just the good side of it, it was a very good time creatively. Like I had fun. I got to work with people and I got to, like Mary, who's like legends in gospel music now.
Yep.
Some of their first work, studio work, was on my album.
Mhm.
Like they sung on the one song, the "Good to Be Alive" song that they're credited on, but they also sung backgrounds on my song "A Friend in Me." They sung backgrounds on a bunch of stuff, like all the stuff that Warren Campbell produced. They were in the studio with me singing, and we used to run to the TV because at that time they were background singers for Eric Benet.
Yep.
So we used to run to the TV to catch them on BT and stuff, singing with him. So it's just fun. Like you never know who might stop past the studio. Like DJ Rogers Jr., who's and he's acting on the show now. But his dad was the legendary DJ Rogers, and he came through and wrote a song for me on the fly,
Yeah.
recorded that. And the guy, Phil Weatherspoon, who was like a mastermind of a producer, he would just be sitting there hanging out. Everybody just hanging out and just making music and having fun, just enjoying music.
Wow.
Yeah.
How much did that process and that era kinda, like, feed your soul? Because I know with Dru Hill, you kinda wanted a bigger role. You have this
Mhm.
solo project, like, did that feed you creatively and just personally?
Creatively, yes. Personally, no.
Hmm.
Because I don't know this to be fake. I can't say in black and white this is what happened.
Yeah.
But I've been told by multiple people who worked on the project, and they told me secretly, so I never put their name out or anything like that.
Sure.
And one person even admitted to me out of their mouth, but I'm not gonna get into that either because I'm
Right.
not that type of person. But
Yeah.
they basically stopped my project. They basically made sure that there was no promotion done on it and no, like anything because they wanted to make sure that when they reconvened to do the group again, that I would come back. And there were
Mm.
people that felt like if my gospel record was successful, and that was what I wanted to do anyway, oh no, he definitely not going to come back and do another Dru album. You
Right.
see what I'm saying? So it's like they basically let me record it just to get that out of my system. But when it came time to promote it, I never got a video. The lady who was supposed to put up posters even in my city, I asked why I don't see any posters of myself even in my own city. The lady's like she got a flat tire on her truck. That
Mm.
was supposed to be putting the posters up. And then I would go to the label who sent me to do in-stores, and I would get to the in-store. One of them at a Virgin Mega store. One of the people who worked there, she's like, "Oh my goodness, I love your group and everything. I'm glad you're here, but we ain't know you was coming."
Oh, wow.
So it's like really zero promotion done. Like the people who got it just got it on. I don't know how they got it. I just went on YouTube and saw people actually posted some of the songs up and stuff like
Right.
that. And
Yeah.
it was liking them, but it was never really like any grassroots, any real promotion, or anything done on it. And I had to be able to be released. The album was recorded,
Yeah.
but in order for me to be able to be released, the label just kept on making me do more things. Like before we can release you to put your album out, you gotta be in the Thong Song video. I'm
Mm.
like, come on now, how did that make sense? Like, I'm getting ready to sing gospel music,
Yep.
and I love booties and boobies and everything as much as the next guy. But right now, I'm trying to promote a gospel project,
Yep.
and y'all telling me in order for me to be free to do a gospel project, I gotta go be in a video with booty shaking. And then I even made a scenario to go in the video. Whereas though, I said, let me call me. One of y'all called me on the phone. Like how
Yep.
he did the thing with his daughter in the beginning. I was
Mhm.
like, y'all call me like, well, we out here doing this. Come get with us or whatever. I was like, look, bro, I'm about to be about the Lord business or whatever. I can't make it,
Right.
but y'all go ahead. Y'all do y'all thing, rock it out or whatever. Whereas though it's still positive and me giving my blessing or whatever. And
Yep.
I was told that wasn't good enough. So and you see me for 2 seconds, but yet still I was still there. And
Right.
then like all love to Kelly Price, but at that time I was already left the group by then too. And they was like, all right, in order for you to get out, you got to pay in the Love Set You Free video.
Mm.
And the
Yep.
next one was you got to be on the American Music Awards with the group, which is the pictures with the burgundy that's still on Google to this day,
Right.
with us all in the burgundy. But I always wore to that was my way of protesting, but it probably didn't reach anybody because nobody knew what was going on. I
Yep.
had shirts made with Jesus Saves written across the front of them, and now I used to wear those shirts everywhere they made me go that I didn't want to go. Too
Mm.
bad I didn't think about it for the Thong Song one because they probably would have put me off the set if I'd have came there with that one on with Jesus saying on my shirt. But yeah,
I mean, I gotta say, you have more patience than anybody I know. Just the fact that you're willing to compromise on all of these things, like that takes a lot of patience from you.
yeah, and I'm glad you said that because to this day I'm still get painted as the bad guy after I put up with all that stuff all those years,
Yep.
did all that stuff. What they say, what Beyonce say, Beyonce September, just like September baby, just like me, to
Mhm.
another September baby. She said the first time I said yes to you this, I said yes to that, I said yes to about four things. The first time I say no, it's like I
Mm.
never said yes. And every when they go on Unsung or any show, it's always, oh, we can't believe what he left us like this. Oh, he
Mm.
ain't give us no idea he was leaving. When every time we did a project, the same way we would get a contract to do a new album, I would have a list of things that I wanted to see happen this time that didn't happen last time. And
Mm.
they would put the list up in the studio. Cisco would post the list up on his printed out and post it up on the wall in his studio. And I'm like, if these things don't happen, I'm gonna leave. And every time I would say it, so maybe they didn't have an idea I was gonna do it because I always said it. Always it's like the boy who cried wolf.
Yep.
And then the one time that you actually do it, then everybody's shocked and amazed. But really, it's been coming since day one. Like I
Mm.
quit the group for the first time the day that we got went to SRR Studios to learn to dance for Tell Me. The
Right.
learning return for Tell Me because we had a guy named Marvin McIntyre. And he was like a drill sergeant. Like he was like, you see the guy Brooke Payne that New Edition has?
Yep.
I think they are associates of each other. Like they know
Okay.
each other and they were working together for a while because I saw some footage of them working together.
Sure.
But he used to always his thing was take it from the top. He was like a drill sergeant, and like everybody else came from backgrounds where they danced. I can't dance, so every time I missed a step, he would make all of us do push-ups and sit-ups,
Oh
or he'd make
man.
all of us run in place. Or he had us in the place where we get ready to do our first show at the Impact Festival. Had us all on stage rehearsing while the people were cooking breakfast right behind us. He's like, Dru
Mm.
Hill not hungry yet. Dru Hill ain't shit yet. Dru Hill don't get to eat. You know, and it's like I just felt like it's me making all this hard for everybody because everybody else is getting the steps.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? It's just me that's not getting the steps. So I told the guy who discovered us, who got us a deal, Hawk Islam, I said, man, give me $80. He said, for what? I said, so I can get on Amtrak. That's how much an Amtrak ticket was at that time and go home.
Mm.
And he was like, oh, if I brought four guys up and only three guys continue on, that looks bad. So can you just give me 1 year?
Yeah.
So I said, okay. Then what we did this Christmas, the Donny Hathaway remake, I quit again that day
Mm.
because I'm like, man, hold up, I still ain't getting no parts like good enough. I ain't getting on this. I'm going home. And every time I went to go home, somebody would always say, "Oh, nah, don't go yet. Nah, stay a little while longer. We gonna make sure things is better on this project, or make sure things is this and this on this." And it just never happened. So the Wild Wild West video, it just basically came to a head.
Yeah.
When we got there, basically Will Smith for the whole first day didn't even acknowledge any of the rest of the group.
Mm.
It was just he said on the song, he ain't say Dru Hill, Dru Hill. He said it's school, it's school.
Mm.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I flew one of my female friends out that weekend.
Yeah.
And she was just like, I want to go back to the hotel. I'm tired. I want to lay down. Or we're in California. I want to sightsee. Like, and I couldn't give her no real reason that made sense why I couldn't go with her because I wasn't doing nothing.
Mm.
He's like, you can sit here, you just sitting here. You looking like one of the, not even like the staff members, because even they working. You just
Right.
sitting here. Why you can't go back to the hotel with me? Why you can't go this place with me? And I was like, you know what? I've been sitting here my whole, career or whatever. So this is the
Mm.
last day for that.
Yeah.
So I went back, and you already know the story of when we was overseas and they did the little
Yeah.
shooting and stuff.
Yeah.
And to clear that up real quick, to clear that up, I didn't leave because somebody was shooting around.
Mm.
The house I grew up in, my next door neighbor sat on my front.
Yeah.
We just moved in the neighborhood. You know how when you just move into a neighborhood and nobody knows that people had just moved in the house, so they still sit on the front steps of the house that used to be vacant.
Yeah.
My next door neighbor sat on my steps, and he was a real good fighter. He'd just beat somebody up at school that day.
Mm.
So he came home and sat on my steps. So the person he beat up came back around to shoot up the house. They saw him sitting on those steps.
Wow.
They shot my house up. We did
Wow.
not move from that house for probably 10 years.
Mm.
Then me and Cisco at not Jack the Rapper, How Can I Be Down? Another music festival in Miami. Me and him snuck out once again and went to a show. And it was that's the first time we met Dalvin. Well, we saw Dalvin. We didn't get to
Mhm.
meet him, but we saw Mr. Dalvin. And we was hyped. Like we looking at each other because me and Cisco was the two big Jodeci fans out of the group.
Yeah.
Which I made Cisco a Jodeci fan. He was a Boys and Men fan. I
Mm.
can show you a picture. He had on a suit like one gay for his senior
Ah.
farewell. He had the cane and everything.
Yeah.
The whole one gay. I said, let's switch tapes. He had a Boys and Men tape. I bought Jodeci tape. We switched tapes. At the end of the week, we came back. He had the clear orange jacket. The jacket they hadn't come and talk to me, but he had his in orange, and he had his head turned back or had the shades. So I made him into a Jodeci fan. But back to what I was saying. We snuck out and went to this show. I'm not going to say the name of the group that was on stage performing because I don't want to put them in a bad light.
Mhm.
And maybe they wouldn't care, but I'm just going to be safe. They was lip syncing. Next
Mm.
thing you know, somebody started shooting. And the bullets, like the Matrix, they were going whizzing past our heads, like this close. Like,
Wow.
bottles was busting behind our heads. And the crazy thing about it, we didn't even know to be scared. Like, I guess maybe it was shock, or
Yeah.
maybe it just looked cool because the bullets really looked like they was moving in slow motion, or just hear something whiz past your ear. And
Wow.
then you see bottles busting because we were standing in front of the bar. And a big guy, his name was Sean Sanders. He
Okay.
went by Sean T. I don't know what he was out there for or nothing. But I remember at that time, first album, if you remember, look at the pictures, I was super skinny.
Mm.
And Cisco was tiny as he still is tiny to this day.
Yeah.
I didn't got some grown man weight on me, so I don't know if he'd have been able to do this now. But back then, the guy, he was a big guy. He took and picked both of us up because we were just like frozen. We just sitting there watching the bullets. Like, look at that, yo. Look at that. Yo, we talking to each other like, yo, one just went past your head, yo. Oh, yo, look at that. That's what we doing. And so he picked both of us up and ran outside. So, but at that time, this is when we first came out. This is when we only had Tell Me Out. I
Mhm.
stayed around still because I felt like, okay, it's worth my life if I got something coming out of it.
Yeah.
But by the time the shootout in Paris happened, I'm like, hold up, that's enough of my life
Mhm.
gone because at that point I had given up the hope. You see what I'm saying? Like at that first point, the first shooting, I still had hope. I was like, all right, I'll stick around. But when that last shooting happened, I thought about because the night before I had a talk with the Heavenly Father. Like I prayed. I stayed on the tour bus because we were overseas already.
Yeah.
I stayed on the tour bus and I prayed. I said, why is it, Lord, that Jazz is seem like he getting what he want out of this career.
Mhm.
Cisco seemed like he getting what he want out of this career. Nokia seemed like he getting what he want out of this career. And the voice came to me and said, you ain't never going to get what you want out of this
Mm.
until you doing it for me. And so I heard it, but then when I saw everybody the next day, I didn't want to hurt everybody's feelings. I was a real big
Mhm.
people pleaser.
Yeah.
So when that shooting happened, I was like, I thought about the story in the Bible of Jonah and the whale, whereas though Jonah, the Lord told Jonah to go one place. Jonah didn't go to where the Lord told him to go. He went to another place. He got on a boat, went somewhere else. And so as a result of Jonah being hard-headed and going somewhere else, the whole ship just started rocking to the point that everybody on that ship could have died when all the Lord wanted was Jonah. So
Mhm.
the whole time they shooting and once again watching the bullets, watching people bust each other upside the head with walkie-talkie, it looked like the Royal Rumble happening right outside of our
Right.
band that we was in. And the thought came to me. I said, "Oh, this could be happening because the Lord don't want me here."
Mm.
And so I could be the cause of all my brothers getting killed or all the security, all the team and everybody getting wiped out because I'm not supposed to be here and I'm being hard headed.
Right.
So that was my motivation in leaving. And I watched recently Take Six.
Mhm.
Remember Take Six started
Yep.
out with an original lineup, and one of the guys, Mervyn Warren was his name, he left to score music and do the Sister Egg. He said he did the Sister Egg thing and everything.
Yep.
And the thing I loved about that interview, because it was Brian McKnight's brother, Plug, that conducted the interview. And
Yep.
I was just really turned in because it just came up on my thing by mistake. And I was like, yo, them dudes look just alike. And so it was just like I was fascinated by that. But then I ended up watching the interview because I like Take Six.
Yep.
My cousin used to recommend I listen to them to help make my harmony skills tighter and stuff. But like I never really knew about the group dynamic. But to watch how Mervyn and Claude conducted that interview, and it was never any bad blood. There was never any bad press put out on Claude because he left Take Six and stuff like that.
Yep.
So it's like my group just went a whole different route and just started saying bad things about me and trying to paint me in a light that was never my intention. Like my intention was the same like him. Like I'm gonna go over here, but I want y'all to keep doing y'all thing. I just wanted it to always be positive, and it just breaks my heart to this day that like every time my name gets brought up, is somebody, one of the members, like got to throw some type of shade or have to make the whole unsung thing was like doctored, whereas though they take three of my words from one sentence and then paste them with three of my words from another sentence or something like that,
Mm.
and whereas though it just made me look like a bitter bitty or something, you know. And that's like I don't have an ounce of bitterness in my everyday life because I'm happy.
Yep.
I'm happy where I am. Like I always, and any of them will tell you if they being honest. I used to tell our manager, don't never leave me home for more than a week. Because if you
Mm.
do, I'm going to get a job at the Rite Aid in the shopping center down the street from my house. And when
Right.
y'all call me and tell me the next show that we got going on, I'm going to tell you I got to work that day and I can't make it. I
Mm.
always dreamed of being, like I said when we first got on here, I could travel the world, but let me be back home by Friday.
Right.
I never, you know, like, and that was always my thing. So I'm happy now. Like I work a 9 to 5. I
Yep.
don't make a lot of money, you know, but I'm happy because I'm content. I'm doing something that I enjoy. When
Yep.
I go to my job, if I do take a day off, I probably could count on one hand the amount of days I've taken off in the past 10 years that I've
Yep.
been.
Right.
Okay. You can see and hear me now.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yep.
Sorry about that. If I do miss a day, the people in the building are gonna, when I get back, my supervisor going like, oh, everybody was looking for you.
Mhm.
Everybody wanted to know where you were, you know. So it's like to put it this way, even make it even shorter and sweeter.
Yep.
It was a lady who worked in my job, and they're not. There are some people of like my ethnicity and my like that what they call it that listen to your music demographic.
Yep.
There are some people that fit that demographic that work in my building, but there are more people who work where I work who are not of that demographic. Like they're more of the rock and roll and country
Mhm.
music and that demographic. So a lot of them don't know anything about drill.
Right.
If the only thing you will get a response out of them if you say Cisco. They
Right.
say, "Oh yeah, the thong guy," you get that. But the majority of the people that work where I work don't know anything about that. So, and then the ones that are of the demographic like me, they're older, so
Mm.
they don't know either. So it's like one time a lady who used to work there came and told one of the somebody that worked in the building, and so the person came down and requested of me. She was like, "It's one of our associates' birthday today."
Mm.
So when she walks down past your desk, could you just start singing happy birthday? And I'm like, okay, why not? So I sung happy birthday. The lady teared up. So then the next day, and she went home. She asked because she hugged me, and I hugged her, and she went home.
Yep.
The next day, she come back, and she said, I had no idea. She was like, they tell me that you're somebody. They tell me that you used to be a pretty big deal or whatever like that. So
Mm.
I went on my phone and scrolled and showed her a picture, and she said, Woody, huh? And I said, yeah. She was like, well, I don't know Woody. I know James.
Mm.
James is nice to me every day. James listens to me when I have problems. James helps me when I need help.
Yep.
I like James. I don't
Mm.
know what I like James. And when
Right.
she said that to me, that basically let me feel like that I'm where I belong. I'm
Right.
doing what I belong doing. I'm making a difference.
Right.
It's not, and if I don't show up for a day, them people will, like it will be somebody that cared that I wasn't there.
Right.
Like easy 1 day turnaround time. You see what
Right.
I'm saying? And
Yeah.
it's always been like that. So it's like, and then I work different places. I do work different places. Like I don't just work in one place.
Mm.
I have multiple jobs because you got to be able to survive in these days of time. I ain't
Of
making no
course.
show money. Ain't no show money. I
Yep.
do karaoke. Karaoke's free, and I haven't
Right.
even been able to do that since the pandemic. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah. But
Yeah.
I'm just about being somewhere where I can make a difference and where I can love and give love back, and no whole bunch of politics. Anything you do gonna have some politics, but the music, business, politics, and group dynamics
Right.
make my skin crawl. But
Right.
it's nothing. It was never negative towards any specific person. But
Right.
it was like when I got it back, I'm shocked. I'm like, this person talking bad about me.
Mhm.
This person like, damn, we was just cool two
Yep.
minutes ago. But yeah,
But
enough about.
no, like your whole story is crazy because like you mentioned earlier that, you're a people pleaser. And I think you learned a valuable lesson there that you can't always please people. You're going to disappoint people at some point. So
Yeah,
I think selfishly, you got to do what's best for you at times. And I think that's a
that's what I
valuable
learned.
lesson right there. Yeah.
That's what I learned.
Yeah.
Even to this day, like people will call me and be like, "Oh, I think it'd be so good for such as this person if you was to come back." Or, "Oh, this person really wants to talk to you." Or, "Oh, this person really wants to hang out with you." I'm like, "That's fine and good, but that's not good for me."
Mm-hmm.
Like it took me all these years of being not around some people for me to discover and find myself. Because, like I say this too, I don't feel like I became a grown man, a
Yeah.
real man, until I left that situation. Because as long as, and this not speaking bad on them personally or anything, it's just like when you are a celebrity since a childhood age,
Mm-hmm.
a young age, we were 19. That's
Yeah.
still a child to me. Like that's fresh out of high school. I just listened to Dr. Boyce Watkins had some folks on, and they were saying that a lady said she don't feel like a man becomes a man until he is 35. And I
Mm.
kind of agree with that because like I didn't know what I liked and what I didn't like and anything. And it's like coming straight out of high school where your mom's taking care of you and your mom and dad taking care of you. And then you go out to a place where you got a manager who takes care of all your affairs.
Yeah.
You got lawyers that if anything legal comes up, you got lawyers on speed dial that's going to take care of that.
Right.
Then you got security. So if you start talking reckless or acting in a way that you deserve to have your ass whipped, nobody gonna be able to get to you to whip your ass because you got security.
Right.
So it's like me leaving that situation. Not that I would have talked to anybody crazy, but I took advantage of other things. Like I ain't know anything. I still don't drive, but I never drove back then or anything like that
Right.
because I always had people to do stuff for me. And my first girlfriend, after the whole music thing and after all that was over with, the one that wasn't with any of that hype, she was another whole nationality and stuff. So she didn't care nothing about it either. Like the type of music that she listened to wasn't that type of music. Like she had heard of us before or whatever like that, but she wasn't like all caught up in the fanfare and stuff like that. And her nickname for me was Pampered Man.
Mm.
She's like, I just look at them hands. Them hands just so pretty. Like you could tell you don't do no work. When it came
Right.
time for me to go places, I didn't know how to get anywhere. I could catch a cab or whatever, but I didn't know how to like catch a bus or anything. I didn't know how to do things that the average guy my age knew how to do.
Right.
And me being out of that light and being out of that, I had to learn how to survive. I had to learn how to be a man,
Yeah.
how to it grew me up. You see what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Yeah.
And it's like when you got other people who have always had those luxuries and still carry things the same way we was carrying them when we was in high school. It's like it's like a chore to be
Right.
around somebody that's still when Muhammad Ali say a person who think the same at 50 as they thought at 20. had wasted 30 years of their life.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
somebody at 45, which is where we at right now, still treating situations and treating me the same way that you treated me when we was 18, I can't be around.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
I could learn from a distance. I
Yep.
could wish, pray blessings for you and stuff like that, but to actually be in their face and chummy and putting arms around shoulders and being phony and stuff
Yeah.
to make everybody else happy, that wouldn't make me happy.
Fair enough. Now, Woody, let's get to the third Dru Hill album because there's a couple of things we're looking at here, right? Number one is that you left the group initially because you weren't happy with your role. Did you have any leverage when you came back to the group for that third album? And then my second part to that question is on the second album, you weren't happy with your role. There were four members. You get to the third album, they add Scola, and I love Scola. That's my guy. But that doesn't make sense to me from just a mathematical standpoint. One guy's complaining about the roles, so what they do to fix that is to add a fifth member. Like just and how do you look at that album in that time?
And that was pretty much my I don't know if you want to say fault because it wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but that was like basically my doing.
Mm,
That Scola came back because what ended up came on board because what happened was Jazz knew Scola first,
yeah,
but when I did my gospel project, Scola was very instrumental in my gospel project. Like I was working on in the studio, and one of our producers for the group, his name was Baby Dave Evans, the one who did the "Do Everything" remix with Cisco.
yeah,
He suggested some records for me when I was working on my gospel project. So he suggested a choir. And I was like, I don't really want to go in a choir direction. I was like, we already got Kurt Franklin out there killing it in
right,
that way. I want to just basically take the same approach, my same songwriting style, and just instead of writing about girls and having sex, write about the good Lord.
right.
So he was like, well, let me suggest to you, matter of fact, the manager of the choir was manager Scola.
Mm,
So Scola, he played me some of the music that he had been working on because he had one song that was a hit in Baltimore and some other regions or whatever called Let's Get Personal that was getting some video play on jukebox and stuff like that. So he was like, Scola working on new stuff. Would you like to hear some of it? And so he played me a couple songs. I was like, that's the direction that I want to go in for this gospel project. Like, look, he's doing right there.
yeah,
So he was like, let me call him. And we were supposed to speak on the phone. When he called, the manager was like, I got Woody right here. He want to speak to you. He said, no, I don't want to speak to him. I
mhm,
want to see him. So he drove from where he was and he met me. And at the time, that's when everybody was wearing cornrows. So I
yeah,
looked at him and we looked like to me, I was like, oh, that looked like he could have been my brother. Like we about to
mm,
close to the same complexion. We both got cornrows. He a little bit taller than me. I think he like 6'1" or 6'2", and I'm 5'10", so it's not that much difference in our height. So I
yeah,
was like, we look like we could be family for real. So it's like I started treating him as such. So it's like if you agree to do this project with me, basically I want you there every step of the way.
yeah,
I want you there when I'm in the studio. I want you there when I'm performing, doing shows and stuff like that. I want you right there with me. If I'm on first class flight, I want you on first class. If I'm this place, if I'm in a suite, you're gonna be in a suite across the hall or whatever like that. So he just me and him just started hanging real tight.
yeah,
So when he came back, we got back to doing the group. I feel like no, then Chaz wasn't gonna come back and do the third project because the understanding at first was that everybody was gonna get to do a solo project. And
mm,
Cisco did his. Of course, as everybody in the world knows, Cisco did his. It
right,
was worldwide successful. And then I was able to do mine. I had to fight tooth and nail to get mine, but I bought mine out. And Jazz was waiting to put his out
mm,
and nobody never put it out. So Jazz was like, I'm not doing Dru Hill until I put my project out the same way I said I wasn't doing. So he saw me do it. And
sure.
he's like, work for Wood, then shoot, I'm about to do the same thing. And Jazz got some monster records too, if you never heard him. You
Mhm,
ever talk to him, make him play you next time you talk to him, because I
yep,
listened to the interview I did. Make him play you some of them records. I'm sure he still got them.
yep,
But Jazz had some monster records. Matter of fact, Half Crazy by Music Soul Child was supposed to be his
yep,
song.
yep,
Yeah, it was a different version, but that was his. But he wasn't going to do the group. So they was like, yo, what you think about your boy, yo? They came to our members came to me like, yo, what's up with your boy? You think he'd do it?
mhm,
I'm like, man, I don't know, but y'all can ask him, you
yeah,
know. is we ready to do the group or whatever? Because they used to come to my gospel performances and perform with me, basically butter me up, make sure I came back. So
Right.
at the end of my gospel concert, they would just come out on stage and it'd be like the group and everything. So like we was all on the chord with, so we was cool, cordial. And
Yep.
so then when Scola, they was like, we think Scola come in. So they asked him at first, he said no. He said, man, Dru Hill is y'all for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to have people looking at me crazy, like what he doing here, this, that, the third, or whatever. So eventually Jazz had to talk with the label when they came to some type of agreement and he decided to come back.
Mm-hmm.
So when Jazz decided to come back, I felt the way. I'm like, definitely glad Jazz is back. But I'm like, man, y'all not gonna waste my man whole summer, that whole time that he spent doing all this recording. So if he ain't coming, I ain't coming.
Mm.
So basically that was kind of my doing or whatever. Like I kind of took a stand for him to, be a part of it too. And
Right.
so it ended up being everybody knew how I felt. So it ended up being all of us. And then they kind of felt like they could communicate with to me through school. Like if they could get school on board to do some stuff, then they figured I would come along, whatever, because that's how tight at the time school and I were,
Yeah.
you know. So I was cool with him being there because I felt like he was just another. I felt like I finally had somebody in the group that saw things my way,
Right.
or that would stand up with me. Because for the longest, or a tiebreaker really, because like Cisco and No will say that they don't get along or say they fight all day long, but when they come to making decisions, they were usually on the same page.
Mm.
And then me and Jazz would be on another page and agree with each other.
Yeah.
But when we would get in meetings, I would stand up like I'm not no tough guy, I'm not no rah rah guy, nothing like that. But I definitely do stand up for what I believe in.
Right.
So I would say something. Me and Chad, like he would always say, like, they gonna have a meeting before the meeting. So we need to have a meeting before the meeting so we on the same page too.
Right.
So they would stand up and say what they say. And then they say, how you feel, Wood? And because I feel like I got Jazz, and like I said before, they all short, but Jazz is a threatening physical specimen.
Yep.
Like all that's not fair. If you never met him and see him up close, a
Yep.
lot of that is muscle. If you hug Jazz,
Mm.
you will know that you hug somebody, or like his grip
Yep.
is second to none. Like he's super strong.
Right.
And he definitely had a reputation of being able to hold his own in the streets before he started singing. Don't count out R&B singers, y'all.
Right.
So so I'm like, man, I got the biggest, toughest guy on my side. So I'm gonna say how I really feel.
Yeah.
So I get up and stand up like you, MF, and you,
Mm-hmm.
MF, and this is gonna happen, and that's gonna happen. And then when they be like, all right, well, how you feel, Jazz? We getting to meet Jazz say, what shit, yo, I just want to sing every time. So I'm like, I don't have nobody
All right.
standing up with me. I'm the only one over here on this island. Everybody else saying this is a good idea. I'm
Right.
the only one saying that it don't. Like he really feel like it's not a good idea, but when he get in front of everybody, he gonna say he just want to sing.
Yep.
So when Scola came, I was like, I finally got somebody that's going to be on my side to stand up with me,
Yep.
and it still didn't end up working out because like with Johnny Gill on the New Edition movie when that scene when Johnny Gill said something about what was going on, he's like, you two knew to have an opinion. And that's basically how they would say when Scola would interject and on the side with me. They's like, well, you two knew to have opinions. So I still was all by myself when I was making decisions, even with him there.
Right.
But yeah, I was to answer your question, I was good with him being there.
Right.
And that was like basically what fueled me being cool with coming back. That and the fact that I didn't realize that the gospel side was so similar to the R&B side as it was.
Mm.
So I was
Oh,
like, I
okay.
thought I was coming over here to get away from a lot of things when actually them things happening on the gospel side too. And it's like you at least expect it on the R&B side because people tell you in their songs how they act. But the
Right.
gospel songs, the same ones that be crying and falling on the floor and stuff, they be the ones like I've been cheated out of a lot of money in my career. We talked about that because I ain't know no better. But I've
Right.
never been personally to my face.
Right.
Somebody called me crying, telling me that the label didn't give them the money that they were supposed to give for doing the feature with me. And I'm like, okay, I give you the money out of my pocket. But when the label gives you your money back, sign your check over to me. That was
Mm-hmm.
1999. This is 2021, and that person still have never signed their check over to me.
Man.
And that happened from a gospel singer. It ain't
Right.
happened from no R&B singer. It ain't happened from no rapper. Nobody that rap about I'm grimy and I'm gritty or none of that. This comes from somebody that say praise the Lord and fall in the floor and cry tears and stuff like that.
Right.
Bucket down to hell. That's who done me like that. So that was a very valuable lesson learned too, how things work. So at that time I was kind of like frustrated with the way things was going on the gospel side. So I was kind of like, all right, at least I can go over here and do what I know, is going to work or whatever. So all right, I'll go ahead back over here and do this.
That's man. Was that third album fulfilling for you from a creative standpoint and a personal standpoint?
Tell you what, one of my highlights of the whole time that I sung with the group was that we got to sing at the BET celebration of gospel.
Okay.
And we sung the song that Cisco and I had did for the gospel for the third album.
Yeah.
We sung that song on the show, and the tribute one on the album I did the tribute to my mom.
Yeah.
And then it was followed by that song. Cisco actually wrote that song himself, but it's put together. They formed it together and made it one song, so they put both our name on the credit or whatever. But to be
Mhm.
able to sing that song at the BET celebration of gospel, and like the world, whoever watches BET saw that and saw me when the first time that you did see me get on the mic and actually sing a part
Mhm.
and sing like a bunch of parts, and I was singing gospel music. That was very fulfilling. Like that was
Yeah.
definitely one of the highlights of my career as far as being in the group.
Yeah. That's
I love that.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's fast forward a bit here. So you leave the group again, you're no longer part of the group, and it's crazy because when we think of Dru Hill now and the legacy of Dru Hill, we think of course, those 2 albums, especially because
Mhm.
some timeless music was created on those 2 albums. We think about obviously Cisco's success as well and what he was able to do as a solo artist, but we also think about just that revolving door of group members that come in and out of Dru Hill, and you're no longer a part of it, so I don't think you can really speak on what's going on, but just from the outside looking in and you being attached to that Dru Hill brand, like how does it make you feel to see group members coming and going like that? That probably isn't good for the brand, right?
I feel like there's certain groups that was set up to operate that way.
Yeah.
Like Blackstreet, from what
Mhm.
I was told,
Yeah.
was Blackstreet when they signed on paper, it was Teddy Riley and I think Chauncey Black.
Yeah.
And it was given to them to switch members. So you already kind of expected every album of Blackstreet to see different people.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But other groups where though you already get to know each person and you expect to see those same people coming back, it's like I could see where people, would feel a way about that. Like as soon as you get to love somebody, as soon as you get used to somebody, then they not coming back. It's like your favorite TV show.
Yeah.
Like, and then your favorite star on the show is not back anymore and they replaced them with somebody. And
Yeah.
it's like, understand me personally, I've learned that in life you have to adapt.
Yeah.
Like stuff, just nothing's guaranteed from one day to the next. If last year till now didn't teach us anything,
Yeah.
it should teach everybody that nothing stays the same and you got to be ready to adapt. So it doesn't really affect me,
Mhm.
but I can see me being an empath again. I can see where that would make people feel away because I remember when on the Dukes of Hazzard, which is my favorite show when I was that age when it was out, I was mad when they replaced Bo and Luke with their two cousins.
Yeah.
With the other two guys that took, and then I think they did away with Daisy Duke and had another girl with blonde hair. That messed me up. So
Mhm.
I can imagine that's how the fans feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like I will say this on a positive note, and like even though they was talking, well, he was like co-signing some of the ratchetness or whatever on the Breakfast Club, but they wasn't really saying it. But I will say this from the bottom of my heart, and I don't know what they might do with it afterwards or whatever, but I will say from the bottom of my heart that Playa is one of my all-time favorite groups.
Yep.
I sat and watched their Planet Groove when they did
Mhm.
the songs live and stuff. To this day, I still play that on YouTube.
Yep.
And like I remember when we toured with them, when it was all three of them,
Yep.
we toured with them, and every night watching them behind stage, like I would be behind stage right where they was at,
Yep.
listening, and just it would just get me hyped to
Mhm.
want to go out there and sing because it's like going to church and there's like the choir from across town that's good, and then you got this choir from over here that's good. Then it's like y'all just push each other to be better. And
Yep.
it's like I remember just loving them. The first concert we ever went to as a group was when they was in the basement. And when we got
Mm.
there, we thought we was late because Black and KC's tones are so similar.
Right.
And we thought that was KC singing, and it was actually Black. So
Yeah.
then, like when we got to meet them and hang out with them, like man, shoot, Static took one of my girls on the tour going together and stuff, and it was I loved them and respected them so much that I didn't even get mad. I
Yeah.
just said, "Hey, you got it, bro."
Yep.
You know, like that's how much admiration that I had for those guys. So
Yep.
it's like I would never, like have anything but the best wishes for those two,
Yep.
for Smokey and Black. Like
Yep.
those guys are phenomenally talented, and they are like from the time that I spent around them, just kicking it with them on that tour, and like last year or year before, I ran into them one time when they were in town working on some stuff with the group, and I
Yep.
just ran into them randomly. Like I think they went past where I was working, and we just ended up just like rapping. They when I got off work, they were still there, so we just like ended up just sitting around and singing around and stuff. Like I still got audio on my phone. I was just harmonizing this stuff like that.
Right.
I was there like for real, for real. I wish I could be in a group with Smokey and Black.
Right.
Just Smokey and Black though. But
uh,
yeah, I wish I could be in a group with Smokey and Black. But nah,
yep.
man, those guys are top notch.
Yep.
And I hope they feel the same. Like, whenever we was around each other, I always got the feeling that they felt the same way about me. I hope that's the way they feel. But if not,
Yeah.
I'm only a person that know how to be honest. So I will say that I'm nothing but a fan of them and wish them to the best of success.
Yeah. Like I've known Smokey and Black for about 11 to 12 years now, and those are good people.
Yeah,
I love them, and yeah, I'm happy to see them a part of the group too. It's a different dynamic, but vocally, I think they're great, so it
yeah,
works. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I remember when I first met Smoke, well, not on the tour, but like when I reconnected with Smoke,
Yep.
it was on like YouTube, back when YouTube still had the inboxes where you
Yep.
could talk to people and stuff. And I had reached out to him, and he sent me. He was talking about like getting a bunch of R&B guys together and making a gospel quartet group.
Yep.
And so he sent me two projects that he was working on. I think Personal Pain and Pleasure was one
Yep.
of, and I forget the other one. And I sent him a copy of my gospel album,
Mhm.
and we would just like keep in contact and stuff like that. And like I remember playing one of the things for Jazz, and I was like, "Yo, this one song, like when he sing a certain way, because he can sing different ways, he had different styles.
Yep.
But one way he sing, we almost sound just the same. We sound
Wow.
very similar. And
Mhm.
it's like I'll play it for people. Like I would play some of their stuff, and people like, "That's you." Like who you singing with right there? I'm like, no, that's not me. That's Smokey for real.
Yep.
So it's like and to the point where, and he probably don't even know this. It was a time where he was working with his fam. He was doing like he basically wanted to be dedicated to his family,
Yep.
and Black and Static was still wanting to do Playa or whatever. And he was like
Yep.
unavailable for some of the stuff. So I had came to Kentucky with the same guy, Sean Sanders, the
Mhm.
one I told you that picked me and Cisco up and saved us out of that shootout.
Yep.
So he had brought me to Kentucky to record. He was like, I can get you. He's like, what you doing now? I was like, I'm chilling. He's like, man, I can get you a couple dollars if you come down here and perform at this church or whatever.
Mm.
So he had me and a gospel rapper, and then he took me to a studio and they was like, if you do some jingles here, you can get all the free studio time you want if you just do some jingles for our studio or whatever. And I was like, man, I'm about to move here because shoot, if I get paid for doing this,
Yep.
I ain't get paid for doing this at home. So we met up with they had a group called Clientele that was working also with the Player Camp or whatever.
Okay.
And well, with working at the same studio with them. So he had took me over to the studio to hang out with Black. Static was in somewhere, guessing he was with Timbaland and Leon. He was out of town. He wasn't in town.
Yep.
But I got to speak to him on the phone, and I was happy about that. And they were saying that I played them the music that I played him the jingles like Black because he played me a bunch of new music. He
Right.
played me that "Would You Ride for Me" song, the
Mm.
original version when it was Player on it,
Yep.
and I played him something. And the guy who was with him, I don't know who he was to him, if it was his manager or his homeboy or what. He
Yep.
said, "You know what? He sound damn like Smokey." He said, "Shoot, if Smokey, you know what I'm saying, really ain't gonna come back and do whatever. Y'all need to snatch him up and y'all
Mm.
go ahead out there and do that." And I'm just like smiling just at the compliment. And at
Yep.
the same time, I'm like, man, I'm not getting in the middle of no group dynamics, man.
Yep.
Shit, somebody want to fight me or whatever because I'm doing this and that. And then I don't know. I know them to admire them, but I don't even know how everybody is,
Right.
like we going to all get along on the road. You see what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Like that. So it was never like a thought to entertain. It was never no proposition. Nobody wrote me no contract or nothing like that. It didn't come out of Black mouth, but it was the guy who was with Black. I
Right.
don't know who he was. His homie was like, man, he sound damn like Smokey. Y'all better well get him and you him and Static go ahead and hit the road. So
Right.
it's like, man, I see like a kindred spirit. I said all that to say I see like a kindred, not kindred spirit, but like as far as like vocally, I
Mhm.
feel like if Smokey would sing my parts on the songs or whatever that we had out. I feel like it might ease the fans, like
Right.
whatever, like they might feel better. Like, hey, he sounded just like Woody. Like
Right.
he say Woody sound just like it's just like Woody's still here. We shut our eyes and he's still right here with us. I feel like that can help things. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and Static with the way he wrote songs, I'm sure he would have made it work.
Oh my goodness, that man's pen.
Yeah.
That guy's pen. It's like you can hear a song that he wrote and not even read the credits
Yep.
and just automatically know that that was him. What's the one on Jamie Foxx's first album that
Can
he
I
did?
take you home?
That one, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. When I first heard that, before I saw any credits or anything, I already knew that was that.
Yep.
I'm like, when you got a style that somebody can hear like 2 or 3 notes of a song, say 2 or 3 bars,
Yep.
and know that's you, that's a gift right there.
Mhm.
And he come highly, highly recommended by Devontae Swinger, who in my mind is like one of the greatest
The
songwriter
greatest. Yep.
besides Stevie Wonder and Marvin Winans. That's like my top three: Marvin Winans, Stevie Wonder, Devontae Swing.
Mhm.
So it's like if you get a cosign from one of them, then you know you're doing something.
Right.
So yeah, all
Yeah.
respect to that brother. Man. Like I said,
Absolutely.
anybody who take your girl from you and you don't get mad, you know you respect that person. It
That's
was kind of crazy how it happened though, because I ain't have a haircut, and
yep.
I tend to look different. If I tend to look different from day to day anyway.
Yep.
I ain't have a haircut, and I met the girl at the show. I just asked her when she coming back to the hotel. She said, "Yeah." So I found somebody to cut my hair. One of
Mhm.
the guys in the band, the drummer, Big Mike, who was married to Coco, Big Mike Clemens.
Sure.
He was in our band, so he played the drums and he also cut hair. So I went up to his room to cut my hair. The girl had came. So during that time, while I was upstairs getting my hair cut, the girl came in the hotel door. So then when she came, when I come back downstairs from getting my hair cut, I'm all fresh. I'm looking like the video. Then I put my shades and everything on, trying to look like how I look on the album cover. I see the girl standing at the bar with Static. And she
Mm.
just like looked kind of shocked, like, I didn't know that was you that was talking to me at the show or whatever. And
Mm.
I'm just like, shit, you with my man. And I just wait. I said, both of y'all have a blessed night. Y'all enjoy yourselves. And the next day he came to me, he's like, yo, I ain't know, bro. I'm like, look, bro, I'm not worried about that. I'm glad. I just hope you had a good time. Hope you had a wonderful time. But
That's
yeah, man. And
that's
who knows? They
hilarious.
could have hung out in the lobby all night, just drunk beers or whatever. I
Yeah,
don't know
who
what happened.
knows?
Then I went upstairs. It wasn't none
Right.
of my business at that point. But nah, man, I just said that to say I got nothing but the utmost respect for Smokey, Static, and Black. One
Yeah.
of my favorite groups. So like right up there with Jodeci and Intro and all them guys, man, for the '90s, man. Just top notch to me, man. That's all I got to say.
Amazing. So Woody, just to wrap things up, we're almost out of time here, but I mean, I love hearing about what you're doing right now. You work the 9 to 5 now, you're happy in that, and we're all happy for you. Cisco recently, and you saw the post that
Mm-hmm.
we made, but Cisco recently, I don't know if he was speaking it into existence or if there's anything planned, but he wants a Dru Hill reunion tour. He's working on that right now. I know you
Mm-hmm.
have some reservations, or you had in the past about coming back together with the group. So I'm not gonna ask you if it's gonna happen because who knows what the future holds and, things change, but, in terms of your legacy with Dru Hill, like, what would you want done with that just to commemorate your contributions and your impact?
I just said it. Smokey, I want Smokey to sing all my parts.
Mm,
And I want all the fans to enjoy it and have a good time.
mm. Simple as that?
Yep. And I want them to start talking crap about me. Because I'm
Mm,
not nowhere talking crap about y'all.
right,
I'm minding my business. I'm going to work every day, coming home, going to sleep. And talking on my Instagram, trying to encourage people and talking on my YouTube, trying to read scriptures to people. That's all I'm doing.
right.
I ain't messing with nobody.
Fair enough, man. Well, that's all that I've got for you, man. Woody,
Huh?
amazing, amazing story. Just so much that you've done in R&B, in gospel, and we still listen to the music to this day. So I want you to know, if no one's told you yet, that your impact is felt. For us R&B lovers, like we still listen to the music. We're still following you. We're still trying to find out what you're doing. We still want you to be a part of the whole Dru Hill movement. So just know that at least for us, we know that you matter and that, you've made your impact and we appreciate that.
Thanks, brother. And coming from you, somebody who I highly respect, like you and your whole team, I highly respect y'all. That definitely means a lot. And
Mhm.
just peace and blessings to you. And please keep keeping us informed on what's going on in the music world and the real artists that everybody might not know about and might not be up on and stuff like that. Please just keep keeping us informed, man.
Right.